you so much for the introduction, and thanks everyone for having me. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. This is my first webinar, and I always like working with Chris. He's extremely smart, as you guys have just witnessed, and so I'm always in awe, and I always learn a little something new listening to him as well. But I'm here to talk to you about the surgical aspects of GDV. I actually love GDVs. I think they're fun cases. They're a fun surgery. I'd love to say it's rocket science, but it's not. Let's get started on some of the surgical aspects. So you've already gone through some of the pathophysiology, diagnosis, pre-op stabilization with Chris. I'm going to do a little review of just general anatomy, go over surgery. I am going to go over a few more radiographs with you, because that is something that I get called about a lot overnight. I get sent x-rays and I have to make a decision as to whether I'm going into the clinic or whether it's just a dilatation and can be managed medically. So I will have a few sets of x-rays for you guys at the end to go over. And then once I'm done, Chris will take back over going over post-operative care. So general anatomy of the stomach. You've got the fundus. So the esophagus goes into the cardia. Then the fundus takes up the majority of the big body of the stomach, which leads to kind of the pyloric antrum and pylorus, and then leads to the duodenum. So I'm sure everyone knows all that, but just because we're throwing all these terms around. Blood supply-wise, a lot of the majority of the blood supply comes from the celiac artery, which then goes off and branches into all of these. You'll notice here that the blood supply to the spleen is pretty closely connected to some of these arteries here along the fundus. And so when we refer to the short gastric arteries, it's these arteries here along the fundus that we're talking about. So GDV, Chris went over this, and this is something that I think is intuitive for some people, but takes other people a little bit of time. So I am going to go over this again, maybe give you guys a little bit of a different perspective, so hopefully everyone can visualize it appropriately. So, we commonly say they rotate clockwise. Chris gave an excellent description of that, but that doesn't always make sense to me personally. So I'm going to have a little poll on the next slide, and we'll see how many people can kind of visualize the anatomy, and then I'll go over a little trick that I use sometimes that may help you visualize it if you forget what clockwise actually means. And then how far do stomachs rotate? Again, there is a great variation. The majority of the time they're going to rotate about 180 to 270 degrees. So the first poll, when a stomach rotates clockwise, what does that mean? The pylorus moves ventrally from the right to the left. The pylorus moves dorsally from the right to the left. C, the pylorus moves ventrally from the left to the right. D, the pylorus moves dorsally from the left to the right. Or E, I have no idea.
Right, Ellen, I have launched that poll. Unfortunately, the way the system works, you can't see it. So you are completely in my hands at this stage. And I can see it up on my control panel now. We'll just basically give people a little chance to vote, and then once most of the people have voted, I will close the poll, and then I will reveal the answers. All the delegates will be able to see it, but I will be able to read it out to you. Okay. For the people that are on the webinar that are not 100% sure, it's really, really easy. Make your selection, just click on the little dot next to it, and that will come through to us as a vote. It is completely anonymous, so please don't worry if you're not right, or don't vote because you think you whatever. Just give us a vote in there, guys, and it's as I say, it's anonymous, so don't feel embarrassed if you get it wrong. As Alan was saying, it does take a while to grasp this stuff, so think about it and just click on your answer. I'm just going to give another 10 seconds or so for their voting. More than 2/3 of the people have voted now, and so just another 5 seconds quickly, and then we will close this poll. Righty, that's about it. Sorry, let's close that quickly and share the poll up on the screen. So, as I say, Alan, you can't see it, but 44% people voted for the pylorus moves ventrally from the right to the left, answer A. 23% was B, the pylorus moves dorsally from the right to the left. 10% the pylorus moves ventrally from the left to the right, 24% pylorus moves dorsally from the left to the right, and I'm really pleased. Chris, if you're listening, good on you. 0% said, I have no idea.
Well, good. So the majority of people got it right. The correct answer is A. So the way I try to visualize it without trying to put a fake dog in front of myself is I will take my left arm and hold it to the side and bend my elbow so that my hand is on my right side. So if you think about your humerus as being your esophagus, and then your elbow is kind of your esophageal sphincter, then you get your radius and ulna is going to be your stomach, your hand is going to be your pylorus. So that is how your stomach normally sits. If you take your hand and kind of like you're just going to rotate your arm out, so your hand is going to go away from your body and then out as far to the left as you can. So now your elbow is still at your side, but your hand is pointing away from your body. That is how the pylorus moves. So it moves along your ventral abdomen from the right side to the left. So I hope that makes sense and helps some other people visualize it, because that is, when somebody described it to me that way, that is actually what helped me kind of solidify it in my brain. I have a hard time picturing clockwise, counterclockwise, things like that. So hopefully that helps. Chris discussed diagnostics of what we need to do. Radiographs, specifically the right lateral, will be the most diagnostic. And what you're looking for is a gas distended stomach with compartmentalization. And compartmentalization is key. People call it the Popeye's arm, the Smurf's hat. There's the double bubble. I have seen a number of radiographs that aren't classic. And so what I look for is I look for compartmentalization. And I will go over that on some of the radiographs that we see. So we have a few examples here. So this is kind of a classic GDV picture. The pylorus is all the way up at the top near the diaphragm, and then you can see kind of this solid, more tissue-like line that's going up into the stomach along here, and then a nice big bubble below. So when I'm talking about compartmentalization, I'm talking about that line that you see. And that shows that the stomach is bending in an abnormal way. So there is compartmentalization of the chambers in this, or of the stomach, into a couple different areas. So this radiograph is a little bit different. This is actually just a food bloat. So once there's food and fluid in the stomach, it does make it a little bit harder to diagnose GDV, but you're still looking for that compartmentalization. There's still going to be gas that's present, and you should still be able to see a line going through the stomach somewhere along, usually kind of towards the dorsal aspect of the stomach. Now this radiograph, I hope you guys can visualize this line kind of going through the middle of the stomach. So this is a dog that has a gastric dilatation and volvulus that is fluid distended. So the fluid is making it harder to discern